Hey fall 2023 Tumblers coaches, I'm going to review weeks 1 through 3 setup right now. This is where the kids obviously enter the gym, and we are going to use diagonals for a warm-up. So if you see here, I have this green cone, yellow cone, and red cone. So they're going to start back by the green one and practice an exercise to the yellow one, and then jog around the red cone and back to where they started. Now I strategically want them to start back at the green cone, so while they're sitting waiting for class to start, they're further from their parents. So that will hopefully make some of the kids that are nervous to come out feel more separated right away, so that they aren't still nervous when class is happening. So you'd have them walk around like this, and then I would at least the first few weeks start with dots like this, and you can send them around and then have them sit on a dot. So I would stand by the yellow cones. If there's 2 teachers, have one coach by the yellow and one coach by the green, and then you can send one class over to this side and then one class over to that side. Depending on how large the class is, it might make more sense to all stay on one side, but then one coach can kind of be leading it, while the other coach can kind of still be helping late kids enter in and stand on the other side and help correcting. So then both coaches aren't leading, one coach is leading and one coach is complimenting or correcting. And then you just want to have them come up as they start, follow through the dots. Then when they get to this one, then they're going to take their turn starting at the green cone all the way to the yellow cone. And you can look at the exercises there on the lesson plan, some basics that we want them to start to learn, and feel free to do extra or less passes of each of those to fill your warm-up time as you see fit. Then over here we have area 1. We're starting weeks 1 through 3 with just 3 stations at each, because it's a little bit harder with the newer students to get through all the directions and let them get turns. And then the following weeks we will graduate to 4 stations at a time. You can see here how I placed dots for them to stand at while they're going, and you might need to move those dots once warm-up's over back, or move the equipment back if you feel like it's too close to the white line, but this allows you to be set up but still use the floor. Here we're practicing donkey kick at the trampoline, which should look like jumping to a handstand. You can have them do sets of 3 to 5 of those depending upon their age class. The older class, I would have them do a little bit larger sets. Then on the hexagon trampoline, we're doing tuck jumps connected. So the goal is that they're getting their knees above their belly button and that they're doing them in a row. And again, you can kind of give sets of 3 to 5 depending upon their age and skill level. Then here we're practicing a cartwheel or puddle jumper over the panel mat. I did add station or signs that we use for the preschool stations. You can leave it up to you if each week you want to get those out or not, but if you're somebody who has trouble remembering which station is which and you have to kind of check your clipboard a lot, that can almost be as much help for you as it is for them. Some of the kids can't even read those, they don't even take the time to look at them, but then you might be able to coach a little bit quicker with those. So those are always over on the white shelves and sometimes get mixed in with preschool cones for the week. So the signs will be in here somewhere, so if you ever need them, you can dig around for them. And then just try to get them back over to the white shelves when you're done so that preschool can use them as well. Then over here at area 2, we are gonna do on this blue block, put our feet up here and our hands down here for what we call a piked half handstand. So we want it to look like a handstand from their hands to their shoulders to their butt, but then their feet are over on the block. And then notice I put like this dot over here and that one over there so that they're not waiting in line next to each other to get in as much trouble. On the laser beam, we're practicing jumping over the pit blocks. We want to start by focusing on starting on 2 feet, landing on 2 feet. Younger ages will kind of step over it, or almost what looks like a leap. We want them to be using both feet at the same time. Both things are helpful, trying to do a tuck jump where you really tuck your knees up, and trying to do a straight jump where you can jump high enough that you can keep your legs straight. So I would say the main focus you would want to start asking them to do is land facing forwards, not land facing sideways. And then you could decide if you want to tell them to try and tuck their knees up more or to try to keep their legs straight. And then over on the medium beam with the mats underneath, I put the signs and the dot over here. We are going to practice mounting the beam, and then we're gonna crawl across the beam and do puppy tails or knee scales. Depending upon the age of kids, we kind of tell them what those are. I think it would be best if we kind of drew like 3 X's on the blue mat with chalk and told them to stop at each X and hold their puppy tail out in the back and count to 5. I didn't always understand that one very well as a younger coach, but it really is so much core strength for them to be able to clamp onto the beam like that and not wiggle off, and then to scooch forwards. And then holding that back leg up is really an introduction to a teeter-totter or a letter T or kicking to a handstand. So if they're unable to control that leg out in the back when they're kneeling down and holding still, then we know that their kick to handstand isn't as strong as it could be yet. And again, we want to be using those key words, mounting the beam and dismounting the beam, more than anything else. If they don't have the mount and dismount part down yet, they're not really going to be able to work on much in between either. And then make sure that they're mounting the beam as the sign says. That prevents them from falling forwards over the beam and hurting their arms. And especially if you can remind them that someday they want to be up on the bigger one, so they really need to know how to climb up. Then over here in area 3, we're going to use this wall bar where we should be practicing a bat hang and then raising 1 foot off the wall for your bat hang. Of course, if they're strong at that, you can graduate them onto their wall walk pull over and help them sit up. We do want to consistently be challenging our kids in community ed class because it is not skills based, it's age based. And so we don't want any kid to feel not challenged because they're more advanced for their age. But we want to keep a balance of asking them to master the skills that they're doing as well, because if we're only telling them to do more and more and more, then they're not understanding that gymnastics is also very repetitive and that we need to really master each thing that we're doing. And so you want to find that balance with your classes of challenging them or finding ways to ask them to do what they're doing better by maybe holding it longer, doing 2 in a row so their hands are more tired, different things like that. Same thing goes with our wall walk to handstand. We're going to use this blue wall here. They're going to start with their bottom touching the wall and then walk their feet up and then walk their feet back down would be stage number 1. Then we want to get to where they can walk their hands back and touch their nose to the wall. So you can see those 2 different versions in this picture right here. But then from there, you know, we know at all levels we practice walking up to the handstand that direction. So my next challenge would not be necessarily to just turn around and kick to a handstand, but would be to practice rolling off of the wall next. Then I might challenge somebody to do a shoulder shrug or to even do a chicken peck, or to even kick their body off the wall and work on holding it next to the wall versus just turning around and kicking up. Sometimes if you're giving kids too different of a challenge, then all the other kids want to do it when they're not ready, or they're wondering why, or they get kicked because they don't expect somebody to be turned around the other direction. So always try and think of ways where you can develop the thing they're already doing, not always switching them to something different. And then over on this bar, we're going to practice a tuck hang. And once they're in their tuck hang, we're going to have their friend take this little foamy and set it on top of their knees. So then they know, are my knees high enough to hold that foamy up or not? So then they're also engaging with their partner. Their partner has to set it on top, and they should start with counting to 5. And then if they're able to do that, you could challenge them by counting to 10. If that's really too easy, you could switch it to an L, so make them have their legs straight with their foamy on. And if you really have that amazingly strong kid, you could have them stay in a tuck hang or an L hang and ask them if they can do a pull-up while they're in that position. So all of those things would be ways to make this station applicable for whoever is doing it. Thanks for everything. Talk to you soon. Bye.